What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk Podcast Hot Tags of the Week. We're going to be breaking down all the things that happen in the world of pro wrestling over the past few days that we feel like talking about, at least the things that we think that you guys would be interested in. And if you don't know who we are, I am Tony Mango, joined as always by Callum Wiggins.
Hello there.
And Robert DeFelice.
Hello.
Of course, we always want to know what you have to say, so drop your thoughts in the comment section below on YouTube, or if you're listening elsewhere, then leave your comments on Facebook or Twitter or the Facebook group Megamaniacs or on our Discord server that we have up there. If you are not joined over on that front, then you can click on the link that's on the sidebar of smarkoutmoment.com. Of course, you can leave a comment on smarkoutmoment.com as well. Or you can, if you are on YouTube, click on a bunch of other things that'll help us out. Click on that like button, gives us a little boost on the algorithm. Hit the subscribe button if you are not already subscribed to the channel. Ring that notification bell as well. That way you are set up for your email alert when we go live for the WWE SummerSlam post show tomorrow night. And of course, if you want to help us out on the monetary side of things and make sure that we still continue to do this podcast and still have this website and still have Fanboys Anonymous and all the other things under a mango tree, and I still keep my sanity, then the best ways to do that are to donate to the Patreon or the YouTube channel membership and be on one of those different tiers that we have on those. The Darkcast tier, of course, gets you access to the Darkcast podcasts. The $1 a month tier is still greatly appreciated, though. Same with the $5 one. Same with the Pick a Poison tier, where you get to request something specific that we do. And I believe that Guest 5 has something lined up for fanboys. We'll probably be watching the third Pokemon movie sometime soon and having another deep crisis of mental fortitude. As if I need any more of that, right? So, stay tuned for things like that. Of course, if you want merchandise, Redbubble and TeePublic are where you can pick that up until I figure out another alternative for that. And if you want to just toss a little spare change our way, then the thanks button is another means to do that for this particular video or any video that you do. Super chats as well when it comes to tomorrow with the live post show. And of course, SummerSlam is something that is on the horizon, and we will have live coverage for that during the pay-per-view, and I'll have my EWN post up and stuff, but we're not quite talking about Survivor Series, SummerSlam yet. I have Survivor Series up because of the announcement that they actually put out that's Rogers Arena and all. It's not one of the hot tags. There's really nothing to talk about there. It's just, there you go. It's on the calendar. But we do have other hot tags.
Again, they did confirm again, it's War Games.
Yeah, it's War Games. We kind of figured it's just going to be like that. I'm disappointed that's just going to be a thing every year, because now it seems like they actually do have an opportunity to do it, but I still don't think that it should just be, it's November, time for War Games, and I missed Survivor Series. But going back and talking about some other things, let's talk about a different pay-per-view, ROH Death Before Dishonor, that happened last week. I did not watch it, but I, of course, followed what happened on there through other means, and we got some surprising results from at least my perspective. Like, I did not anticipate certain title changes and all. How do you guys feel about what happened at Death Before Dishonor? Any particular standout things, good or bad?
Lee Moriarty winning was the right call. Layla Hirsch and Diamante had a hell of a match. That was the scariest moonsault I've ever seen in my life. And she dislocated her elbow. She is hurt. Layla Hirsch, that is hurt following the match. But it was very good. I would suggest, if you see one match from that card, see that one. And the only other major story to me was something Tony Khan said after the event. But I'll let Callum talk about some of his highlights.
Yeah, so I thought, again, just as typical with Ring of Honor, like, their week-to-week TV be a bit skippable and uninspiring, but their pay-per-views pretty much always deliver, and this was no exception. I thought outside of the stuff that was happening on the kickoff show, which was good. I like MXN Collection. They seem like they're a fun act. Obviously knew what they were doing in WWE as like Mason Mansour, but I think that they've toned it down enough, but elevated it in other ways that it's like working better than it did in WWE. Opener was fantastic. Like, the Beast Mortos is just awesome, and Commander's awesome. They had a brilliant match. The Texas Death match was a lot of fun. Lee Moriarty winning was surprising, but it was a nice result, and the fact they did it in a interesting way where the ropes did get involved after both guys had already used all their rope breaks. So that was a good little wrinkle onto it. Red Velvet winning was surprising.
Yes.
But it's clear what direction they're going with that now, so that's...
Which is the right direction.
What direction are they going that you guys are saying? Because I'm totally tapped out of
that. So Red Velvet beat Billy Starks for the title. Billy Starks tried to do the neck injury thing again. That was essentially what her gambit was, that she was going to fake the neck injury and use that to take advantage of the situation. Red Velvet didn't fall for it and hit her finisher and won. And then Athena later in the show defeated Queen Aminata in another very good match. And so she retained the title, and then in a backstage segment afterwards, and also at the press conference, Athena basically celebrated with Lexi Nair and pretty much dismissed Billy Starks as a failure for failing to keep hold of her title. So they're clearly going to go back to Billy Starks winning the title from Athena.
Oh, I thought you were talking more so about Red Velvet. Like where they were going with Red Velvet.
Oh no, well, Red Velvet's just a champion. She'll defend it against somebody and lose it to somebody, probably somewhere down the road, but we don't know who or what just yet. But yeah, the clear thing is that Billy Starks is going after Athena, but maybe they'll utilize this as an opportunity to do have Billy be the heel instead of Athena, or Billy's just going to go crazy on Athena off the back of this because the resentment level is now going to reach nuclear level. To be fair, now that we know that this is going to be the final destination probably for it, and Athena's just going to lose the title to Billy Starks, they probably should have just done that at the last show, at Final Battle, not extended this out any further than needed to. But that's fine, it'll come to its conclusion anyway. They probably just did it for the sake that Athena, I believe in about 2 to 3 weeks, is going to become the longest reigning champion in Ring of Honor history of any title. So
she's got about a little more than a month. She's got about 45 days to go.
Yeah, they probably won't do it until the next big show they do, which is at the end of the year. So we've still got about 3 or 4 months to build up this story.
Yeah, typically, Final Battle is somewhere in the first or second week of December, if I remember correctly. Or no, I think it's actually after that. It's towards the very, very end of December, isn't it?
Yeah, so essentially...
It depends on where they fit it in, yeah.
So essentially the story they're probably going to tell is that it's been a year since they had that match, and they're going to main event the next Final Battle as well, and that's where Billy's actually going to win the title. Yeah, but other than that, the six-way match was fine. I didn't really think too much of it. The 6-man tag with the Von Erichs and Dustin Rhodes, which we'll probably talk about with Battle of the Belts as well, because that actually title change afterwards. But that was fun, and then the main event was probably, from my perspective, the best match on the show. But that's because if you put Mark Briscoe and Roderick Strong in a match with each other, then it's going to be great. So,
well, you mentioned it. I mean, we do have new ROH 6-man tag team champions. We've already talked about the idea of the belts being split up again and all, but I was surprised to see that it was the Von Erichs and Dustin Rhodes instead of the Undisputed Kingdom, because as much as it made more sense to me to just not put it on the Undisputed Kingdom and have double champions again after this whole thing, I still was just assuming that was going to be the case because that's what they just keep doing over and over and over. So Dustin Rhodes and Von Erichs, new 6-man tag champs, and I couldn't possibly tell you who would be the next in line to go up against them because I don't even know who's recurring in the 6-man tag world of ROH, but I'm not anticipating that they're going to be holding those belts for 9 months or anything.
Well, the likelihood is because they are Ring of Honor and Collision are based in Texas for the time being. It was a smart decision to put the title on the Von Erichs and Institution in Texas, so to have them hold the title is probably a smart decision, and they probably will drop it close to the end of this residency. I imagine that, at least from what they've pretended on Ring of Honor TV in the latest episode, it might be the Dark Order that goes after them again. So, because they had Evil Uno and John Silver and Alex Reynolds beat down Dustin Rhodes, who was then saved by Sammy Guevara. So he's back. And
yeah, what do you guys think about that?
It's probably smart.
It's a good move.
Yeah, I think like everyone needs to come to terms with that the ship has sailed with Sammy Guevara being a top guy in AEW. He just can't be relied upon both from an injury standpoint and from just a backstage behaviour standpoint. So let him be the front man for Ring of Honor instead.
I still am hoping that he just goes to WWE. I think he would maybe be better off there.
No, he wouldn't. No,
yeah,
he wouldn't.
I'd be pretty safe with that one as well. I think that when he's better off, he'd probably be where Andrade is right now.
I could see WWE working well for him and kind of like maturing him in some ways.
If he never leaves NXT, he'll do great. If he leaves NXT, he won't. Look at Santos Escobar. Look at, he'll be like Ethan Page in NXT. But if he never left, if he went to the main roster, I don't think he would do good.
Yeah, and to be fair, I'd also be somewhat surprised considering what's happened with him in AEW if WWE would even take the risk.
Well, I mean, you have to jump to that conclusion to begin with. But, yeah, I mean, stranger things have happened. Jesse Ventura, by the way, popped up in WWE this past week. That's pretty cool. That, like, he must have just been like, oh, Vince isn't there? All right, let me show up. I think he had said something along the lines of, like, if Punk was there, then maybe I should give him a shot or something. And, I mean, time doesn't heal all wounds, but it at least fades some scars.
Yeah, I'm glad those unions got sorted.
Let's see. So ROH out of there. If we're talking about some...
Hold on, we didn't talk about the fact that Tony Khan said he's thinking about making ROH like another AEW show. He thinks it'll have more legs and more viability as AEW Ring of Honor.
So I look at that and the continued lack of an announcement of what their next deal is. And maybe this is the glass half empty approach and there's something more to it that I'm not seeing, especially because I'm not an economist. I'm not, somebody that studies Nielsen ratings and gets into like the business aspect of that. And honestly, I don't care enough to be like doing deep research for the sake of my own personal opinions. So maybe I am missing some stuff. And if that's the case, hey, look, don't bet the house on this. But I look at this and I go, okay, well, isn't there some kind of a deal with like the NBA or something that Warner Brothers is trying to work out? If that is the case, kind of gives me the impression that they're like, hey, if we can get the NBA, then we don't need to do almost anything regarding AEW, but we need to keep them in the back pocket if that is not the option, or if we can get them cheap.
Yeah, what you missed in that regard is that they had the NBA, and they're trying
to try to keep the NBA.
Yeah, exactly. So NBA going to, I believe NBC was the one that agreed to deal.
I think it was Amazon actually.
Oh, Amazon. Well, I think Amazon got like a smaller package because like Warner Bros. Discovery used to be like one of the big like providers of the NBA stuff, and now they're going for some kind of like tertiary package, just so they can probably keep hold of like inside the NBA and stuff like that. But yeah, they are definitely trying to do stuff, but they basically, from what I've read from other people, they've essentially fumbled the bag with the NBA, and a lot of people have speculated that could be a good thing for AEW because
if they don't have any of that, then they need something.
Exactly. If they've also like they're saving however many billions that they're going to save on not having this big NBA deal anymore, because that would be worth billions per year, then that is money that could be better served, because they wouldn't have to pay anywhere near that to re-sign AEW to a contract. So,
but now if you're AEW, you're looking to get a much better contract than you had before. And if you're Warner Brothers Discovery, based off of what I've seen on that end, they're going to be cheap as fuck about it. So they're going to try to be very much like, okay, can we get an even better deal than what we had before, or just the same deal as the last time? And that, to me, doesn't scream well. Like, they should have figured something out by now. And if you're packaging ROH in there and trying to figure out like what else can we do to kind of hype up the value of AEW and make it be like, okay, well, we'll also give you this. That's the type of stuff that WWE ends up doing with like those real shit shows like Main Event and NXT Level Up and stuff. Because you can tell 100% that when they negotiate with these people like Peacock's end of the bargain and all, that they're like, oh, we'll give you your own wrestling show. It'll have separate matches and it'll be a part of the NXT brand and whatever. And it's like, yeah, it's just recorded in advance and it's garbage and nobody cares. But they look at it as like, we've got our own specific show on Peacock and we've got our own Hulu show. And ROH, they haven't been able to figure that out after all these years. They were shopping around. Nobody wanted to pick it up. They had their YouTube stuff. They ended up going back on the Honor Club thing. And I don't think it's a bad idea whatsoever to be like, let's try to package this in any way that we can. I think that that's the smart move. WWE NXT is WWE NXT. AEW ROH, we all know it's fucking AEW ROH. It doesn't need to be like, you can't tack on the all elite wrestling thing to it. Yeah, it's the same fucking thing. Come on.
No, the problem with that is, while granted AEW content is a lot closer to the original vision of ROH than the thing I'm about to mention, is it feels very WWE ECW. And that worked out well for nobody. And if you're just going to absorb the Ring of Honor brand into AEW, then I know this is probably blasphemy for at least one of you, but I would have rather the library went somewhere else.
It's fucking stupid. Sorry, Rob, but like, don't say stuff that's just blatantly dumb to say. I hold you at a higher esteem, a higher level than that.
I appreciate that.
But I know. Okay, because like just when and I'm conflating, but like I only say it because I know you're better than that.
Well, I appreciate that.
But I tell you, I don't think that just having ROH sitting in the library, like I say, it's never going to go back to probably the way that it used to be when it was its own independent thing. It never does when it's these old things. But the fact of the matter is that even if you don't like the steps they'll take with this one, the library is still there. You can always go back and check the old stuff wherever it's sitting. It's still sitting on the Honor Club stuff. It's still. That's not. If it was WWE, it would just be sitting behind the paywall that is Peacock instead. Mm-hmm. So like that hasn't changed anything. Regardless, if they end up signing a deal with Warner Bros. Discovery, Ring of Honor could probably end up as part of Max for all they know, and maybe Honor Club just goes away at that point. But I think that cashing it with the AEW thing is the best way for it to survive and become a television entity moving forward. So yeah, I agree with that. It might feel a bit. You're right in saying that it might feel a bit WWE ECW, but the difference being is that, as you said, AEW is a lot more aligned with Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor was just a pro wrestling show, whereas ECW is far different to PG WWE. So I think that it's a slightly more unified thing. But I do want to go back to kind of like the way that Tony was kind of phrasing it. Kind of, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that you're kind of phrasing it, kind of make it feel like that AEW is trying to sweeten the pot for Warner Brothers Discovery, whereas I think that the situation is that Warner Brothers Discovery should be trying to sweeten the pot for AEW. With the sense being that, the big story that came out about this, regarding this, is that the period of exclusivity, the window of exclusivity between Warner Bros. Discovery and AEW is now up. So AEW can now shop themselves around to other broadcasting networks. So essentially, now the pressure is really on Warner Bros. Discovery. If they do want to keep AEW and they do want to maintain that content, they missed their opportunity to seal a deal when it was just them involved in it. They clearly didn't give them a good enough offer, or Tony Khan was always going to look to shop it around to other things and try and bump up the price that way. So right now, I think that AEW pretty much holds all the cards. They're not going to go away. They will find another platform to be on if they don't end up back in Warner Bros. Discovery. But I think this will just scare them into making a better offer.
Yeah, I look at it more as if Warner Brothers really, really wanted to keep them, they would make sure that they would be giving them options that they would want to take before that exclusivity went away.
But I think that, based on what you said as well, that I think that put it this way, Warner Discovery really wanted to keep the NBA as well,
and
they failed because they thought.
I'm not a fan of what WBD's been doing the past couple of years. This is definitely not a positive thing on their end.
Well, that's the big question, because basically everything that I've either read or seen or heard about it is that clearly they're being run by quite incompetent people right now,
and they're not incompetent, just fucking greedy.
Greedy. It's a lot of the same stuff we've been talking about for like the whole streaming bubble, and the fact that these companies do the thing where it's like, it's not even the content creation thing anymore. It's I created a company so that I can sell the company so that they can sell the company that they bought from me. Like, they just trade back and forth. And now there's even discussion that like they want to split up again. And it's like, the whole point of you merging was to not be split, and now you feel like you need to because you're all dumb and you didn't realize what the fuck, like, you know, that's the bundling thing of Paramount plus the whatever and blah blah blah. Like, it's just kind of, everybody knows what needs to be done, but nobody wants to be the one to do it because they all think that they're entitled to do something different. And I feel like when it comes to the AEW and the Warner Bros. Discovery thing, it's like two sides that are trying to do the negotiation bullshit, which like I have no patience for anymore. And you guys have seen behind the scenes me negotiating with people on like advertisement stuff and like Smark Out Moment and all, where I'm like quite literally telling people, I understand you're trying to bullshit with me in negotiations and I don't fucking like it. So tell me what your price is and I'll tell you to fuck off if I don't like it. Like, I feel like AEW is like, hey, we feel like we want more money. Of course, everybody wants more money. Across the board, everybody wants more money for less stuff. It's just the way that the world works. Whether you're at a restaurant or a clothing store or whatever the fuck, they want more money and they want to be able to give themselves a bigger platform. And then Warner Brothers is like, yeah, can we get more from you for less money? And ROH is definitely not going to sweeten the pot in a way that's going to make like the most massive thing. It's not like it's like WWE talking about like Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, and they're trying to approach USA, and it's like, do you want to do a package deal of like Raw and SmackDown versus SmackDown and NXT? Two different fields. ROH is not probably doing well enough with the Honor Club that they could be like, oh, if you transfer that all over to Max, then you're going to instantly get all these extra subscribers and stuff. Because you got to assume, let's just say, I don't know how many people are subscribed to Honor Club, but it's 10 million people. I don't know. It's probably nowhere near the number. But 10 million people subscribe to that. And you go, okay, well, if we move this over to Max, you're not going to get 10 million people. 100%. Because some of them are already subscribed to Max. And others are going to go, well, I don't give a shit about Max. I don't want to pay that much money for that. I only want the Ring of Honor stuff. So even if you had 5 million people out of that, and you said you cut it in half or so, that's a boost, but it's not something where that's going to be like you got the rights to, say, when Netflix had like The Office or something. And for the people that are all upset about, like, if you tag it AEW ROH, the product doesn't change. You put the AEW logo on it and you do the exact same product that they're doing now, it's not going to be like the WWE ECW thing where it's just not ECW. I think anybody that's upset about that is a little bit too, like, not realizing that Tony Khan's not going to adjust and be like, well, now that it's AEW ROH, I need to do more crossovers with them. They're already crossing over. They're basically the same rosters. It's just some people don't show up on some shows and some do. I mean, you figure the ROH 6-man tag titles were settled on an AEW Battle of the Belts show.
I do think that I think that there would be more encouragement to do more crossover stuff if it was on TV and also had the AEW branding attached to it. But then I think they're showing signs of like seemingly having some people being dedicated to one brand more than the other. I mean, at least according to what reports have said, the MXM collection are kind of on Ring of Honor contracts rather than AEW contracts. But then again, they wrestled FTR on Collision last week, so. So as I say, I think that in order to get Ring of Honor back onto television, then tying it up with the AEW brand is the best way forward. And whatever network or show or whatever that ends up being on, I think that trying to get it involved as part of the package and trying to shop it around as well is the best way forward for it. But yeah, as I say, the show was good at the very least, so we'll see if that can translate to more success for the brand moving forward. I do still think that it will come eventually.
Yeah, I would just say that I don't consider myself one of these people, but there are those who are already like, well, this isn't the Ring of Honor that it was, and I just think it'd be a further move in that direction. But at the same time, if that's what's going to get them more money, by all means, I think go for it. And as far as the Warner Bros. Negotiations, I don't think, based on everything I've heard, that there's any desire to seek elsewhere, because Tony loves being on the Warner stations. I don't know if, he has any desire to change that. I do hope that they get a good sum of money and that Ring of Honor is in that package, because, listen, Honor Club is cool, wouldn't want it to go away in terms of the library, but I don't know anyone that's like, I need to pay $10 a month to watch weekly Ring of Honor TV. I think that hurts Ring of Honor. I think that hurts the people on Ring of Honor. So it'll be an interesting, look going forward, but I think they're staying on Warner Brothers.
Of course, we'll figure that out more when they actually report anything like a tangible update on their new deals or anything. And I will say I haven't used the Max app yet, but I used the Warner Brothers Screeners app, and I was not a fan of that. So if Max
you haven't used the Max app?
Nope. I never signed up for a Max account, so never needed to use I I downloaded the app to try to use it for the Screeners thing, and it didn't work because it's a different app. But did not like the Screeners app, so I don't know if the app for Max is any different. But
Max is, first of all, Max as a service is probably the one streaming service that is the most bang for your buck, at least for me. But that's probably for very specific reasons. I would love to see more AEW content on there, and hopefully that's where this is all going. Because $50 a month for these pay-per-views, that's also just too much. That's a different story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At least when you package it in with that, like, I don't have as much of an issue paying $10 a month for Peacock, knowing that if I wanted to, I could watch other Peacock stuff, which it's very rare what that is. Other way, I'm watching Traders now, so like that's a little bit easier. Granted, it's not that hard for me to just like get torrents and stuff like that. Technically speaking, you're not supposed to do that. Oh, okay, there you go. Fuck you, it happens. Let's talk about some other AEW business behind the scenes stuff, though. This is one of our big stories for this week, so let's talk about that and then kind of circle back to some smaller ones. But remember in June how people were talking about how Shane McMahon would have met with Tony Khan, and then it turns out that didn't happen and all. And then now it turns out it did happen the other day. On Monday, they met up in Arlington. There's a picture of Shane McMahon and Tony Khan in the same room. Supposedly, according to the Bully Ray, I went with Bully Ray instead of Bubba Ray. His statement from Shane was that they essentially just talked about like their passion for the business. course, they're never going to be like, yeah, we decided to negotiate about all these plans forward and our ideas of what I can do in this company or whatever. But it's interesting that this actually did become an actual meeting, and the possibilities of Shane McMahon popping up in AEW are definitely way more realistic now than they've been before. And, for anybody who is curious, I put up an article that's actually published now on What Culture. I think it got published probably when we started doing this. But it is 10 booking steps for Shane McMahon in AEW. And I'll spoil one thing about it. It is essentially me booking how do you get to an Avengers Endgame style big crossover of Team Elite and Team AEW versus Team Shane McMahon. And you do the reset of AEW this whole entire time has been like, we're the alternative and we can like beat WWE, and it gives them an opportunity to quote unquote beat the McMahon in their own company and kind of give the resolution of what WCW and NWO should have been, in my mind. If you're interested in reading that article and all the ins and outs of that and who would be in my unnamed McMahon group, I'll spoil one. MJF is the leader. Then go ahead and check that out, because I think that actually was a pretty fun story to write up. I still don't think that he's necessarily going to show up in AEW.
First of all, this picture was released on accident. Like, they got something cooking if all of this was even out there. You know what I mean? And fuck, I think that's really cool. I think as long as he doesn't overstay his welcome, I think Shane McMahon in AEW could be pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally, I'm very disappointed with all this, just because, like, this is just not what AEW is supposed to be. But you can't have a McMahon in AEW. It just doesn't compute that you're supposed to be the antithesis of everything the WWE stands for the most part. As I say, you can't go too extreme with that. You have to have cameras on. You have to have a crowd. You can't just go against all of that stuff. But you shouldn't have a McMahon in AEW. I don't care if it's like, a one-off goofy segment or like just cutting a promo or just doing that, then, fine. It's like something that they can put into the like archives and say, oh god, there's one moment where hell froze over and the man was in the AEW zone. But I just don't think that, because if that went well, then it would lead to Shane having a run in the company, and that's just asking for so much trouble. Like, people have kind of short memories with this regarding, like, there's a reason why he was kicked out of WWE a while ago, and that's because he was given the responsibility of booking one Royal Rumble and fucked that up so badly that, like, he was kicked out, like, Vince kicked him out of the company, and he was meant to have plans to be at WrestleMania that never came to fruition. So I don't think there's ever been any proof or indication that Shane knows really anything about the wrestling business beyond just what he's done within it. I think his main contributions to the business have been as a performer, and he's in his mid-50s now, and he's never been actual, wrestler. So I don't see what he would really add to the company behind the scenes, and he's now reached the point in his life where I don't know what he could really add to the company in front of the camera either. I mean, you guys have been there, like, watching some of the promos he was cutting 2 or 3 years ago. Do you think his brain has gotten any better since that time?
Yeah, I would say you bring up some very good points. They're all very true things. I think right around the time that they hired Flair, which they did swiftly move away from, but right around that time they kind of started giving up on the notion of being the anti-WWE. If I was gonna fantasy book Shane to do one-off thing, it would be he appears at Grand Slam to announce that at some point soon AEW is running the Garden. And then if we never saw him again, I think that'd be fine. But I do think he's going to do something with the company. I do not know if it's a run or what, but I do think he will do something.
I'll believe it when I see it, is like my approach with a lot of things like this. And again, to reuse the phrase again, stranger things have happened. And, you know, you can't really deny anything in pro wrestling based off of, we have some family staying with us right now. And I was showing them that Snitsky punts a baby. Like, you know, it's like things are crazy in pro wrestling. But I don't know. I think it's a very sensational story that sounds like you can go into all sorts of, I mean, you read the article that I do. I'm booking a 3-point gang warfare thing that ends in a blood and guts pay-per-view with Survivor Series point style, you know, Hangman Adam Page is teaming up with Osprey and what, you know, like all this other kind of stuff. But I do think of it as sometimes these things, and more often than not, end up being like, okay, they met and they had a conversation, and that's what businessmen do, and then they moved on. And until we hear something more or see something more, especially if we see something, then I'll start like turning the wheels of like, what does this mean? And how is that going to impact WWE? And how's that going to impact AEW and all? But if he does do something where he would end up being in any kind of official capacity in AEW, then my immediate reaction becomes, I want to know the juicy shit behind the scenes with the McMahon family. You know, like I already want to know it as it is. What some of the stuff, some of it I don't need to know, but I want to know who's arguing at the Thanksgiving table. You know,
at this point, listen, most of even the grandkids are reaching adulthood. At this point, I'd be hard pressed to wonder if they even did Thanksgiving together.
I mean, Thanksgiving's overrated.
I think we'll find out that stuff in some kind of Netflix documentary in the future. I don't think we need to have Shane McMahon be in AEW for all this.
Yes, I think somebody just has to pass first.
Yeah, for all the bodies to be uncovered at that point. As soon as Vince goes or Vince is jailed, then all this stuff just becomes out into the open. So I think that. Yeah, so I'd rather just not have Shane just in any capacity, because I just don't think either creatively or physically he can really contribute to AEW. The only thing that I've seen online that I'd be vaguely interested in Shane McMahon doing is the photos that people are putting up about what structure he could fall off the top of at Wembley for just a moment of All In, and everyone's into the giant arch that's hanging over the top of the company. Just takes one final leap of faith.
I mean, like, if he was younger, and if the last time I saw him do anything physical wasn't him blowing out his quad in the ring with The Miz, I would absolutely be like, yeah, can I get Shane and Darby in a Jackass match? Like, of course, but he's not younger, unfortunately, so I think I'll pass on that.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the idea of we'll wait until some Netflix movie comes out. That's a perfect transition to talk about this. Killing Gawker, a biopic film that is somewhere in the works where Ben Affleck might play Hulk Hogan, which makes no sense to me at all. He doesn't look the slightest bit like him. And the only way I can imagine that happening and not looking absolutely ridiculous is if they end up getting the same people that worked on the Batman, because to this day, anytime I see a preview for the Penguin TV show or anything, I just do not see Colin Farrell at all. CGI, cool. Makeup, yeah. Like, maybe there's a way to pull it off, but I still can't. I like Ben Affleck as an actor. A lot of people rag on him. I think that he's underrated in a lot of ways, but I can't see Ben Affleck as Hulk Hogan. Granted, I've been wrong in the past. I remember my immediate reaction to Heath Ledger as Joker was, this is absolutely ridiculous. The guy from A Knight's Tale should not play Joker. This is not going to work. He ended up doing a great job. I remember thinking certain people would be great for certain roles and that they end up flopping hard. So the Chris Hemsworth Hulk Hogan thing made more sense to me than Ben Affleck, but I'll see what happens if that ends up coming about, but I'm not interested in watching a movie about the Gawker thing. That's not, I watched The Big Short, but I didn't watch that other one that came out like 2 years ago or so about the wait, was that The Big Short, the one that came out a few years ago? What was the one? I watched the one about the real estate.
That's The Big Short.
That was The Big Short, okay. And then the other one that was about the
Big Short like a decade ago.
The stocks one.
Moneyball?
No, not Moneyball.
Moneyball is the baseball thing.
Yeah,
Dumb
it was
Money?
Seth Rogen and all. It was same people with The Big Short. I'm blanking on the names. Shit. I'm gonna look this up. So Big Short was I believe it was Adam McKay had done that.
Dumb
Yeah,
Money.
Adam McKay had done
Dumb Money.
Big
I was
Short.
right.
Dumb Money?
Yeah. About the GameStop thing?
Yeah, the GameStop one.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't the same people. I don't know for sure. But yeah, I didn't see that one because I was just like, well, I did watch The Big Short and I wasn't interested in the specifics of that. And I assume this is going to be the similar type of movie. I don't really want to watch a movie that is going to bore me about the logistics of legalities and all. So the Gawker thing.
You don't want to watch Ben Affleck portray Hulk Hogan on the stand saying, no, I said Hulk Hogan has a 10-inch penis, not Terry Bollea.
Well, that's where the difference comes. Because if you tell me here's the plot without saying Ben Affleck and Hulk Hogan in there, and you just go, oh, it's a legal drama about some kind of all these kind of things and stuff, I go, fucking bored out of my mind. And then you go, oh, by the way, it's Ben Affleck and he's going to be Hulk Hogan in it, and this is the crazy thing, whatever. Then I go, all right, I guess I'm seeing it. I'm, future fan tracks or something maybe, but Ben Affleck would certainly not be my first choice to play Hulk Hogan in a biopic. That's for sure.
Yeah, Ben Affleck as Hogan is a weird choice, but we'll see what happens there.
I want to get into all these other articles that hopefully people will write of like other fan castings of other people in those, because I always find those incredibly fun. For that matter, just do multiple Hulk Hogan biopics. Let's do a film about the shit behind the scenes with like everything, and just get multiple. We'll have like a cinematic universe of all these people. Any chance at all that you would be watching a movie like this, Callum?
No.
Yeah, I figured that so much.
Mel Brooks doing a comedic series of movies based on Hulk Hogan's lives would be very fun. I don't know if I'd watch a Hulk Hogan cinematic universe as you're pitching it, Tony, but there's some things in the history of Hulkamania that I'd like to see.
I'd watch an equivalent documentary of like the self-destruction of Hulk Hogan, like the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior. I'd watch that.
Yeah, I think I would too. Yeah.
Why not both? That's one of the movies in the Hulkamania universe. Speaking of an older pro wrestling talent from WWE, let's talk about Val Venis. Or at least the Val Venis trademark. We're not going to get into like super big politics and all. You guys know where we stand on this podcast about a lot of different things, but I find this incredibly funny. The Val Venis trademark had lapsed in WWE, and someone picked up on that, and they managed to get the trademark and file for something that is completely against what Val Venis himself, the actual performer, would have been into, because of the way that he's been speaking out over the past few years about many, many different topics. Instead, Val Venis, now the trademark, is all caps, and it is an acronym for the valued allies of LGBTQ plus vital educational and non-judgmental informational services. I think this is hilarious.
I want to shout out Twitter user Hang'em High, who for the most part just makes memes where people get sock rings smacked out of them in a wrestling context. But for whatever reason, they got into it with Val Venis on Twitter, and they had this wonderful idea, and now Val Venis stands for this, wonderful thing, helping educate people on, I assume, all LGBTQ issues and not just, the trans community, but specifically that, because Val Venus got like super weird and super crypto bro and super anti LGBTQ in recent years, and fuck them. And this is great.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help but be super pleased about the course that this has taken. Val Venus is a repugnant human being. And I say Val Venus, whatever his real name is, Sean Morley?
Sean Morley.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit. So I think that utilizing the name that he's most well known for something that is going to potentially help a lot of people that he doesn't like for reasons which are stupid, is going to be a real is a real perfect way to like fuck him over, and anyone that is able to do that is a hero in my opinion.
So check them out on that. These are
go to valvenus.com.
Yeah, is it valvenus.com or is it valvenus something else? I think it's
valvenus.com. That's a different thing. Matt Kuhn purchased valvenus.com and it direct to transequality.org. So, just fuck Val Venus. I think it's super funny to me that he's trying to stand up for the moral decay. You played a fucking porn star on professional wrestling in the 90s. You're not like some stand-up guy. Get fucked.
The way he justifies it, 'cause he justifies it by saying that, he was a bad guy, and so him playing
He wasn't!
Yeah, no, but then it's like, no, you were one of the most popular guys for a time in the company. It's like, people actually like that sort of thing, and it's just like, I don't know, it's like, also, just find it weird, because like, he's one of those people that people used to talk about in like interviews and like snippets, saying like he's one of the most like intelligent guys behind the scenes that they talk to.
It's one of those Kane things again, isn't
it?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, it's really weird how they're all like that. It's like they think that these people are intelligent. Maybe they're just good at pushing their ideas, but their ideas are actually dumb.
And maybe like they were like intelligent guys in a locker room where most of the discussion was like, about what debauchery they were going to get into. Maybe they were like baseline active in social issues, but it's clear as they get older and as push comes to shove, they're just really going down a bigoted path. And yeah, fuck them.
Well, there's differences between intelligent and smart. And there's difference between well-read and well-spoken and knowledgeable. So it's like, it's the whole, we're going to bring Matt Damon after just talking about Ben Affleck, but the Good Will Hunting thing, where Matt Damon's talking about like, you read a bunch of these things and you regurgitate those facts, but you don't actually understand it and all. Good movie, by the way.
Great movie.
Yeah, the idea of like Val Venus and Kane and all that being the smart guys in the locker room. I mean, the amount of wrestlers that I've met, some of them, I could totally understand them being smarter than him. And there's plenty that I can totally understand being like, that's the most intelligent person I've ever seen, because they're dumb enough that they could be like, hey, that person making my drink at Starbucks is a fucking brilliant person. You know what I mean? Like, it's, any type of locker room, you never know who you got working in there. So I do think it's funny, the difference between hearing those types of stories in the past and then things working out the way that they've been lately. But anyway, that's one of those the little trademark stories that I found funny enough to talk about. Let's bounce to a smaller topic here. Smaller in a figurative sense, not literal. Mark Henry's son, Jacob, has signed a deal with WWE, and they haven't really got into like specifics about, announcing him. He hasn't been, put up on the website as part of any kind of like NXT class or anything along those lines. But signing a tentative deal at the very least with WWE is pretty cool. That we're going to have, Mark Henry passing on some of his knowledge to his son. And I haven't seen anything about Jacob, but if he's half as strong as his dad, then that's something to work with.
Yeah, I wonder if this is like an NIL deal, like those twins, whose names escape me right now. That
Cavender?
Yeah, those where they're like, they were with WWE, but like
not really.
Kind of kept going back to basketball because that's what they wanted to do. I assume as second generation person, Jacob will probably lean more heavily into actually going to WWE, but we'll see. I think I'm not gonna say it's this great move because like
I haven't seen anything of them. So.
And it took Mark Henry 15 years to do something, so like we'll see how it goes, but I think it's cool for the family.
Yeah, so it's hard to really know how big of a deal this is going to be because I don't know anything about he's got a background in wrestling. I presume he's just been brought into the company.
He is a collegiate wrestler, I believe.
Okay, well at least he's got some kind of like fundamentals behind him, but it will be proof in how well he takes up to the wrestling style. With all the respect in the world to Mark Henry, who did prove to end up being like a top guy for a certain period of time, I don't think that his tenure or his in-ring acumen gives me any real confidence that this guy's going to be like a breakout star. But he's going to be in an environment that will allow him to make the most of his opportunity. If he does have any potential, then this is the place to help him fulfill that. So yeah, hopefully it turns out well for him.
And some other people we might be seeing in WWE relatively soon are the Hardy Boyz. According to PWInsider, they had met with WWE in Cleveland, and that there might have been even filming things to be part of some like future documentary or anything.
I'm shocked.
Very, right?
This is shocking news.
There's never been a more groundbreaking announcement in the history of pro wrestling.
I mean,
we all knew this is coming.
All jokes aside, the Hardy Boyz are a legendary tag team. They deserve to end their run in WWE, and their run is ending. Let's not fool ourselves here. Their run is ending, and they deserve to end their run in WWE.
Yeah, I mean, everyone could see this coming. It doesn't make it any less dumb. Like, they're just... If it's like a couple of one-off matches, then fine, but,
I'm not even talking about them wrestling. I'm just thinking Hall of Fame inductions and...
Oh, yeah, if it's just for the Hall of Fame, then that's fine. But, like, they'll probably have a match still.
I could see them having at least one match. Maybe it's like their big retirement send-off or something. I would hope it's not an attempt to just do another run, because they don't have it in them.
I just don't think they're never going to retire. I don't think. It strike me as those two particular just won't ever retire. They have one final match in WWE, and that's fine. But then they'll have more matches in TNA or MLW, or they'll find some other or GCW. They'll find places to still work and make appearances until they like physically can't do anything anymore.
Let's bounce around to another outsider topic here. Updates on the G1. What can you tell us about that?
So right now, in terms of the G1, so we're 5 matches in for everybody out of the 9 they're going to have in the first part of the block. In Block A, at the moment, the leader is Evil, who's won all 5 of his matches. That gives me the indication that he's probably going to lose 3, if not 4, of his final matches, because I just don't think he's going to go unbeaten throughout it. It's not unheard of, but I would be very surprised if he goes all the way. Then Zack Sabre Jr. is behind him on 8, and then there's the Kid and Shota Umino both on 6. Naito's on 4 points. He's lost 3 of his 5 matches, so world champion's been losing quite regularly. He's lost matches to Zack Sabre Jr., Shingo Takagi, and Evil. So realistically, if none of them win the G1, then they all have title opportunities against Naito incoming, regardless. And over on the B block, they've made things super close over there. There are 6 people tied for the lead on 6 points. David Finlay, Konosuke Takeshita, Hanare, Ren Narita, Jeff Cobb, and Yuya Uemura. And then there's the also rans behind it. In terms of just like highlights or actual information, Naito this is not going great for him in terms of just being the world champion, and his matches have been, for the most part, fine. But the big issue is that he's really struggling to hit his finisher now. Like, he just can't get he can't get the rotation for the Destiny right at all anymore. And so I think he needs a new finisher, whether that ends up being some kind of submission, probably. In terms of who's been doing really well and who's been showing out, Gabe Kidd's been a highlight. I'd say that Shingo's been solid, as you'd expect, as the same as Zack Sabre Jr. Takeshita's been great. Yuya Uemura's been surprisingly great as well. And Finlay's been pretty good. So I think there's some people that are showing off. They've given Boltin Oleg and Callum Newman a couple of wins each so far. So they're giving the young guys opportunities to pick up points and get some wins, rather than just having them be fodder for everyone else. And the new signing on the New Japan side, Jake Lee, has been incredibly underwhelming. Really, really bad for the most part. They brought him in his first match, he beat Sonada in less than 5 minutes. So you've kind of thought, okay, they're going to give him a bit of a run, and then he's lost all 4 of his following matches and hasn't looked very impressive in any of them. So yeah, I think that right now, from what I've heard and the bits and pieces that I've seen, it's a bit like it's a good tournament and it's an unpredictable tournament, which makes it better. But it's not. There's not been really any great matches yet, which is not what you'd anticipate from a G1. But then again, probably what you'd anticipate from a G1 that no longer has Okada and Ospreay in it.
Yeah,
any thoughts you have on that, Rob?
I can't add too much to that because I have completely checked out of New Japan, given the surge of other wrestling to watch. But I will say that listening to Callum describe Naito is exactly why I don't want to see the Hardys have another run. I don't like watching people, deteriorate, and Naito can't even hit the Destino, which is what everybody looks forward to. That sucks. Jake Lee being disappointing also sucks. I wouldn't have expected that, but one thing I've heard consistently is they should just keep Takeshita. And hey, maybe they should.
Well, if they can pay for it, then they're more than welcome to him. But
yeah, I mean,
depends whether they got the funding to do so. I think that he's been the standout in terms of just consistent match performance. But that's what you expect. He's probably I'd say he's a top 10 wrestler in the world right now. So it doesn't surprise me. He's the best wrestler in that field of 20.
So before we get to our final true standout topic that we had on here, real quick TV recap stuff, anything on WWE or AEW specifically that you guys feel like we should be touching on?
I'm trying to think back to Raw really quickly.
We got a lot of that stuff when it came to SummerSlam,
right,
the Rollins bit with McIntyre and all.
NXT did their Great American Bash, which was a fun first week.
Nothing happened in it though.
Iowa and Alba probably got their last successful defensive D Women's tag titles, because I assume that they're dropping those belts tonight back to Bianca and Jade. Joe Hendry was in concert. That works for a lot of people. He's wrestling this Tuesday in the second week of the Great American Bash. And Roxanne beat Thea Hale, which, fine match, especially for that particular division. But I really wish they would have given Thea something by now, because I'm getting worried that she'll eventually just get a Kiana James-like call-up, which is they called her up to call her up, and then they don't do much.
Yeah. I mean, from the AEW side of things, it was kind of like by recent standards, because there've been a lot of like big AEW shows in the last few weeks. This one was a bit more just by the numbers. Like had Darby Allin beat Hangman Page in the main event, so they're building Darby. Yeah, very good match. And they're building Darby up, obviously, because he won the Royal Rampage. He's also fighting for the TNT Championship at All In, and then he's going to be fighting for the World Championship at Grand Slam. So they're keeping him hot, and also this opportunity to just feed into Hangman Page's psychosis even more by having him just lose constantly. Well, but like he's lost quite a few matches now in the last month or so he's just derailing and falling apart, and he'll obviously snap eventually. I still think that he's going to be having that match for Okada All In, but we'll see how it goes. Chris Statlander beat Willow Nightingale, so she's going to have a shot for the CMLL World Women's Championship, so I can imagine that taking place at All In as well. Ospreay beating Lance Archer, unmatch, and then Ospreay just cutting out a promo on MJF. MJF's now donning himself in red, white, and blue Burberry, so he's really leaning into the American gimmick. He's gone to CMLL now to wrestle a match against, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's wrestling in CMLL tonight, I believe.
Templario, I believe.
Yeah, and then he's also going to go to Rev Pro in August 12th, I believe it is, to fight Michael Oku.
This is a bit, right? Like,
Michael Oku was the last guy that Will Ospreay fought on the independent circuit before.
No, Michael Oku is fantastic. I mean, of like, I've changed the title to the American title and will now go defend it internationally.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to prove himself to be better at it than Ospreay is. But Ospreay's cut a promo behind the scenes after the show as well, saying that once he beats MJF, he's going to restore it back to the international championship rather than the American championship, which you would expect. I don't imagine he'd walk around with the American title on his shoulder instead. Camille made a debut, in-ring debut, should I say. Yeah, beat up a local jobber, just destroyed her, and then Mercedes Moné cut a promo. We'll talk about it in a little while, but presumably the match with Britt Baker is still on, but we'll talk about that in a little while. And I guess something that would go under the radar, but the Bryan Danielson and Swerve Strickland thing was really good. And I guess that's the big news, is that Bryan Danielson has said that if he loses Swerve Strickland at All In, then he's going to retire. We all knew that his run was over, but he's basically said he's never ever going to wrestle again, which wasn't what he kind of committed to before. He just said he was not going to be a full-time wrestler anymore. But everyone just presumed he was going to wrestle on the side, but he's basically saying, if I lose, then that's it. No more matches for me. So he's going to win. But
yeah,
so it's kind of added that. It's kind of taken away some of the jeopardy from that match. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. And then, just something that went under the radar for me is that the Beast Mortos pinned Mark Briscoe in their six-man tag between the conglomeration and then this Franken team of Roderick Strong, Roosh, and the Beast Mortos. So presumably he's going to get a match for the Ring of Honor title, which I'm totally there for, because the Beast Mortos is one of the most fun guys in the ring right now. So it'll be interesting to see what he does against Mark Briscoe one-on-one. He obviously won't win the title, but it'll be a fun match.
And I mean, in a match that was probably booked specifically for me, I will be getting my Bryan Danielson, Jeff Jarrett one-on-one match.
First time ever.
It's insane to me that, like, this is a match that's even happening, and the fact that Danielson will probably retire before Jarrett does. But if Jarrett can turn it on for just one night, it'll be a pretty fun match.
And then, of course, let's go back and talk about that Britt Baker thing. So Britt Baker was suspended for 1 or 2 weeks or so with a backstage incident with MJF and Alicia Atout. I read a couple different things about this. A lot of the information is very he said, she said. but by what we were talking about before we got recorded and all, it seems like it's a matter of Baker said something about MJF in the locker room, the women's locker room. Alicia Atout had overheard it, told MJF. MJF confronted Baker about it. It had a backstage thing. MJF punched a wall, and that Baker is taking more of the heat on the official side of it because of her making the comment that sparked the whole thing. And then MJF has got the people that are not on his side for whatever reason, whatever this comment was. Of course, we don't know what the comment was, so that's something we can't really talk about, but it does seem like there's some tension there that, it's that fifth pillar is having a little bit of an issue with one of the other four pillars.
Yeah, the pillars are bouncing into each other, it feels like. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much. There's still, I'm sure a lot more will come out in the wash. It's only been reported today that all this stuff started to come out, both in the Wrestling Observer, Fightful, Wrestle Purist. Now Andrew Zarian is also commenting on it as well. So more details are coming out by the hour. So I imagine we'll get a clearer picture in the coming days. But just to add,
I was going to ask you, what's the most recent report? Because I read the Fightful thing that was all about MJF punched a wall, which is the last thing I read. So is there any more on top of that?
So Andrew Zarian has been the last hour or so on the McMahon podcast basically said that this one conversation is not the reason why Britt Baker was suspended, and that and basically him saying that this isn't the first time there's been issues with Britt Baker behind the scenes, which we kind of are to a degree aware of because everyone who's in the know knows about the Thunder Rosa stuff. So that's not. She's never hidden from the fact that about the stuff that happened with Thunder Rosa, but presumably Britt Baker is someone, just judging by the bits and pieces that are out there, is someone who isn't afraid to speak her opinion behind the scenes. She's very clear in what she wants and what she thinks. And she said something. Alicia Atout is obviously MJF's girlfriend and works in the company, went to tell him about what was said, and MJF decided to blow up on Britt. I imagine they probably had a back and forth arguing about it, and MJF was pissed about what she said. Obviously, we don't know what was said, and unless Britt or MJF or Alicia want to reveal that information, then we probably won't ever know what was actually said or how it all went down, blow for blow. But yeah, I think we pretty much just come to the conclusion that MJF and Britt Baker don't like each other very much, and this has probably been put together as a warning to Britt, because she's, I guess judging by what the disco committee put together, she's probably considered to be the instigator of this and has a history of doing it. So yeah, but seemingly people in the locker room also think that she is in the right, or that she's not to be blamed for this situation. So I imagine it's going to be a source of tension, but you imagine that things happen in wrestling locker rooms like this all the time. So I think it's, well, I'm not going to say it's getting blown out of proportion, because I don't think it necessarily is. I think that it's something that with good management, and I'm saying that with the openness of air quotes, because we know the last time a situation like this happened, the guy got choked backstage and got fired a couple of weeks later. So
one of these is going to WWE.
Well, let me put it this way: if MJF does, let's put it this way: if MJF is the one that does the choking, I don't think he's going anywhere other than the jail cell for a little while. But I think that
depends. We all have our kinks.
Yeah. But I think that if they can manage this correctly or keep them away from each other, then hopefully there won't be too much blowback on the back of it, because they're two of their biggest stars. They can't really afford for them to be. Well, they can be at odds with each other, they can not like each other, but to not be having incidents like this regularly behind the scenes.
Can't we all just get along? That's another one of those things too, that if there is more to this other than people get in arguments, maybe this is one of those things that's blown out of proportion and it just became I
don't know, dude. Punched a wall. What? You know what I mean?
Some people are like that.
Somebody struck a nerve.
I'm not that type of person at all. Like, I've never really like even wanted to like hit anything for the most part when I've been angry. I'm not, a gotta get it out of my system type person, but there are plenty of people that are, that their idea of like working through an emotional issue is to go to one of those rage rooms or something. Maybe MJF is one of those people that like slightest bit of a thing becomes like, oh, I gotta go to the gym and work this out, or I gotta punch a wall or something. Or maybe he's justified. Maybe she said something that was like all the reason for him to be like, yo, what the fuck? And they could be both right, they could be both wrong. One could be right, one could be wrong, whatever it is. If there is more to it and it's like some kind of like big deep-seated issue based off of the history of AEW, it's gonna be not the one isolated incident. Jack Perry had an issue with CM Punk. We just talked about that. Where did that go? Sammy Guevara issues with people and all, like, problems backstage very infrequently, if they're at least mentioned in this public space, because I'm sure that there are tons of issues that we're not aware of, that like somebody has an issue with somebody and it never gets reported whatsoever. But there are certainly big enough issues that they end up being put out there in the IWC that it ends up being usually more than one incident. So I would be curious to see what happens if that ends up push comes to shove. So hopefully not literally.
The way that I have described this personally is, this feels to me very much like when the initial Punk Hangman stuff, where it was like, Mercedes said Britt was suspended for what she did at Comic-Con, which was like, okay, Mercedes is good with the Elite, makes sense. So reading this stuff today felt very shocking, like it was like, oh shit, there's more going on. It felt like when you watch that first Hangman Punk promo and you're like, that don't feel right. So I just hope that whatever it is, they can squash it pretty easily. I know one person, speaking to Fightful, said the words, yeah, I thought we left this kind of stuff behind, and that's kind of how I feel about it here, because there's no real winners in these types of situations, especially in this community.
No, the winners are the websites that are reporting these.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, they struck big. They struck big today, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to see 900 rephrasings of the same article for this.
And multiple people got some type of insight on it. So that's rare. I'll say that.
It's clearly like, it must be like a pretty open secret behind the scenes for multiple people to be able to talk to different people and get different perspectives on it. Because nobody's like denying this. It's not like anyone's saying like, people are blowing this out of proportion. They're all kind of saying, oh no, this happened, and just adding more layers onto it. So clearly it's been known for a while. Probably why Britt never actually got involved in like the Devil storyline or anything like that, because she'd have to be directly involved with it then.
I will say that there was that in the Fightful report, that they were really close friends. They had some kind of a falling out within the last year. So there's also that too.
It's always a curious thing of, well, why did they have this fallout? Like, what happened and all? Of course, we're probably never going to know, because that is not necessarily our business. But hey, gossip is very intriguing, and if there are more reports about this, we'll naturally be most likely talking about it, because it'll probably blow up and be even bigger stories over and over and over and over again. But hopefully they settle on their issues and it ends up not being something that leads to one of them leaving the company or being punished more, or any kind of walls getting damaged anymore. But
especially these two, because as Calum said, these are like your top OG people that, rep your company.
Yeah. And we can't afford for Britt to miss out on the All-In match for this, because they're just going to put Saraya instead. So.
Oh God, and they have reason. Oh God, Yeah. Well, good news is Fightful says match is still on.
That's good.
I mean, if she doesn't have an issue with Mercedes, then
you give
her that punishment, and you end up being like, hey, everybody, go to the opposite end of the room and think about what you did, and then Then you have your match, and you make sure that neither of them gets like, you don't set the Britt Baker match to be right before or right after the MJF match, just in case you don't pull off the Jack Perry and CM Punk thing again.
Well, I'm just realizing it's like a year to that. Well, it'll be a year to that day, pretty much. It'll be like a year to the show. So are they going to turn this into that's the show where all this stuff goes down behind the scenes? It's always going to be one big backstage.
It's always like August, September time. Look at Brawl Out or Brawl Out.
It's just the Wembley or London atmosphere that just does it. It just brings out the violence in people.
See, I hate it because every year it's just November and it's War Games.
It's all in time. It's time for
people backstage to start getting into an issue. Oh my god, it's so predictable.
It's time for AEW to go into crisis mode again.
Well, of course, any other news that we find out, we will roll into the next episode. If we do end up seeing anything happen by the time we get to Survivor, I keep going to call it Survivor Series, SummerSlam tomorrow, then maybe we'll talk about something very quickly. But otherwise, if it's unrelated to that entirely, then we'll talk about that on the next Hot Tags, if we're still around for that. And the whole setup of SummerSlam, as we mentioned before, post-show immediately following the pay-per-view, which should be sometime in that 10 to 11 type of range. And, we'll break down whatever happens there. And SmackDown tonight, maybe we see something happen there with like the tag titles changing hands. Maybe we see Roman Reigns or somebody else returning on that episode. Who knows? But tomorrow we do have SummerSlam on the horizon. And, of course, if we didn't talk about anything else you guys wanted us to break down, leave it in the comments below and we'll give our opinions elsewhere that way. You can always chat it up on the Discord server that we mentioned before. And, give your opinions about that and anything else, and share your support for all the stuff on the marketplace we've mentioned and everything on the Fanboys Anonymous side of things there, fanboysanonymous.com. Of course, if you want to follow those accounts and anything other related to the A Mango Tree related stuff, go to amangotree.com or anthonymango.com. You'll see the link tree that I have up with the hub of all those different links. Follow those. Follow me at Tony Mango all over the place, and follow Robin Callum elsewhere too.
Yep. Follow me on Twitter at DudeFelice. Follow me everywhere else at DudeFelice. DudeFelice.com, Fightful.com. Sean Ross Sapp's in Cleveland. He's getting interviews. There will be lots of exclusives on Fightful Select. So check all that out. And check out what Callum's got going on too.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at WakeMeister14. You can check out the Power Rankings every Saturday over on smarkmomo.com. Check out my rankings of the WWE Superstars through there. And then you can also check out who's picking up points over at the Fantasy League, both at Smark and at WWEFantasyLeague.com. See how our teams are all doing. And find out post SummerSlam who's taking the lead, who's been dropped from everyone's team, who's been traded around. And yeah, follow all that good stuff.
Okie dokie, everybody, you know the deal. Leave your comments below. Tell us what you thought about this. We got another
just one last thing, because I think this is funny. Ricky Starks, who has been just sitting around, just tweets whatever on Twitter. Like at the end of Dynamite, he tweeted, "Did Shane's music hit?" MJF tweeted from a ring in CMLL. The whole world's talking about the American Champion's debut in CMLL, representing our great nation. Thank me later. Ricky Starks tweeted and then deleted. I think they're talking about you and Britt, to be honest. Ricky Starks is great.
Hopefully we will see him sometime soon. I am hoping that he ends up popping up in WWE, but we'll see about that. He's in my article for anybody that's wondering of the Shane McMahon thing. He's somebody that I was like, he would totally be a good member of the McMansion or whatever the fuck you would end up calling that, but yeah, nevertheless, that is episode 661 of the Hot Tags, and we will see you next time, everybody. This has been another Smart Out moment, and we are being counted out.